Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaia Donaldson. I'm on Bowen Island in British Columbia with a woman who's a wonderful singer, artist, storyteller, gifted crone, Pauline Le Bel. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I met you through your latest book, Becoming Intimate with the Earth. And I just want to say that it's lovely to hear your music. Lovely to hear your musicals. You've written stories, and here you're doing something masterful, weaving together science, cosmic story, your poetry, beautiful other people. I just want to say it's a treat. It's a treat.
Thank you,
Janaia. So, kind of back up and tell us kind of how you got here to working on this.
How we got to that book?
Oh my!
Was being very disheartened about our disconnect from the natural world, and realizing it was time for me to do something about it, something physical. And I could share this little dream I had. I had this dream that I was in this big white house, and I was with all these other seekers, and we were at the feet of Master Ganesh, and asking him important questions. And I had absolutely no idea what this was. I woke up the next morning and I said to Paul, "What is Ganesh?" I said, all I can think of is Baba Ganoush, you know, it's a really good eggplant dish. And he said, "No, I think it's maybe some Indian god or something." And so that an East Indian friend told me it was Ganesha. And he's the elephant god, and he has small eyes because he looks inside. He has big ears because he listens. And he has only one tusk because he removed the other one, so he could write the sacred text of his people, of the Hindu religion. So that's all of a sudden I'm thinking, what am I willing to remove my tusk for? And it would be to heal the relationship that we humans have with Mother Earth. So that set me off on this book and many other things. And I have to say that writing the book, I did a lot of research. I found out way too much about how we have harmed the planet. It was a real journey to be able to live with that, to be able to contain that grief and that sorrow, and yet to stay optimistic about what can we do. And and the book was bringing everything together that I do. I talk about singing, I talk about how that creates community, and there's all this wonderful research that's been done by neuroscientists in the past while. One by Dan Levitin, who's a neuroscientist at McGill. And he wrote a book called This Is Your Brain on Music. And,
fun title.
Yeah. And what happens when you sing is just your brain is just doing a dance. A neurochemical dance, he calls it. So I wrote a song about that because you feed me something like that, I have to write a song about it. And when you sing with other people, you are bonding and creating community. So, and that's what I do with my vocal workshops. So, so my singing came together in this. My interest in science, which was very recent, I had managed to get through my entire high school and university without any science courses. I know, I was just so... Well, they considered music as science, so and the ancient Greeks did too. So, but then I'm living with a scientist. a biologist.
Has to be in your life somewhere.
And had to come in, you know, and we had so many arguments at the beginning because I see the world from an artist's point of view. And he sees the world from a reductionist scientist point of view. So it was great, but I learned so much about the new story, the new scientific story that has come out. I guess it's about 20 years now, Thomas Berry and Brian Swim, the physicist. And so I met Thomas Berry years ago in California. They had a big celebration for his 85th birthday, and I met Brian Swim, and then I studied with Brian. And he taught me the universe story, which is our story, our cosmic origin story. And I love this new story because it doesn't replace other origin stories or other creation stories. It is a container for all the other creation stories. And the fascinating thing for me is that it reflects most of the indigenous creation stories.
Really?
Yes.
Because this is a physicist talking about, you know, the Big Bang
yes.
and you know, all of that.
Yes.
But it fits with the others.
It fits with the others. And because of the way we're connected to everything and the whole evolutionary story, I mean, they got that piece. Indigenous people got that piece thousands of years ago. That's why they say, all my relations. They're not talking about their aunts and uncles. They're talking about the bees and the apes and the butterflies. That's their relation. Everything is their relation. And the rocks, that's their relations.
Yes. Yes.
So I took that story, which I learned from Brian, and I thought, well, how do I make this accessible to everybody? Because all the science words are there, you know, and I had to look up so many things in the dictionary and on Google, everything, right? So I added poetry and music to it, and there's no science words in it at all. And I created a musical about the universe story. So, and then I decided to attach it to a musical about where I live on Bowen Island. So the first 20 minutes was the universe story. And
that's this, right?
Yep.
Voices in the sound.
Voices in the sound. And then we did it outside, of course,
yes.
because I love being on the earth. Wish we could have done this outside, but you can't have everything. It's a little bit cold out there.
Yes,
I couldn't have my bare feet. And so I created this story, and I start with, everything begins as dream. We all begin as dream, even the story you're about to hear. Not everything in my story happened exactly the way I tell it, but every word is true. And then I go into my crone, and I'm stirring the pot. In the beginning was the great silence, dark, seamless, empty, yet full of possibility. No one knows how long this silence endured, because there was no time, no space, just possibility. And out of this silence was born a sound bursting with heat and energy. Well, some people call this the Big Bang. It was no such thing. It was a hum, a very deep hum. And when I do this in conferences and schools, the audience makes the sounds with me. So I say, and this is the great mystery. Inside that sound, no bigger than a hum, were all the sounds that would ever be heard in the entire universe.
Ooh.
The sound of rain. The sound of thunder. The sound of chickens clucking. The sound of the other shoe dropping. Everything began with that sound. And so people start to own the story.
Oh.
Because for me, the story is wonderful, but if we can't live inside it, it's just another story.
It's just an outside thing that comes and goes.
Exactly.
But to see that...
And there are so many of the old stories. The old stories telling us we're separate, that competition is the main driver of human evolution, where really now the research that they're doing is showing that cooperation is the main driver of human evolution.
Yes.
That we are not separate, that we belong to everything. So I like to sing about it, I like to write about it, and I like to get other people to enjoy experiencing that.
You already took us in. I mean, in the story, I was ready to, you know, with you, make those sounds. Then it comes alive. It comes alive for us. which is true. You're making a workshop based on your book, based
Yes.
on becoming intimate with the earth. So
Yes.
give us a little taste of that.
Well, I look at the ways of intimacy. First of all, I talk about what is story and why do I make such a fuss about story? Because story is what decides how we're going to behave,
Yes.
how we're going to act. And the old stories, you know, they aren't serving us anymore. And we've got plenty of new stories, new science stories, new economic stories, new community stories. And so that's number one, is the story. So then I look at the ways, there are many ways we can be intimate with the earth. I chose 5. I chose the way of wonder, which is where we're in love with everything, the way a 3-year-old is, in love with the grass and picking up bugs and, you know, my daughter bringing home a bird nest and, you know, and then the way of emptiness. The way of emptiness is a way where we sit with our doubt and uncertainty and our pain and suffering about how we have treated the earth. And it was the hardest chapter to write because it's not easy to go to those places.
And you really cannot genuinely write about that. I expect that of you as an artist.
Yeah.
You cannot genuinely write about it unless you are willing to go there.
Exactly.
And those are hard. Our culture doesn't support that.
But
Grief.
Matthew Fox, the great theologian, said, if we stay in that way of wonder, we can't live it fully until we live what he calls the via negativa. I call it the way of emptiness. He says if you can't go into the way of emptiness, then life becomes banal. And people are easily manipulated, as we see, and it becomes boring and violent. So the way of emptiness is you get to hold this grief, whatever the grief you have, and through that, I mean, I write and sing my way through my grief.
Really?
But you live with your grief, and then when you go back into the way of wonder, it's richer. You have compassion for beings. You have a fuller appreciation for everything. So maybe I should sing you one of the songs that kind of exemplifies the way of emptiness. And many people have used this in their workshops to allow people to experience the way of emptiness. So it's a song from my CD, Rescue Joy.
Rescue Joy.
Rescue Joy.
Usual title.
And, you know, the CD came about because I had gone through my own place of emptiness for a variety of reasons. And I emailed Brian Swim and I said, how do you, after 30 years of telling people, you know, the earth's beauty is diminishing and it's not getting any better, how do you keep doing what you do? And he wrote me back right away with this beautiful email saying that it is difficult, it is challenging. And so he quoted Teilhard de Chardin, who said, the crucial spiritual challenge today is to maintain our zest for life. And to help others maintain it. And Brian said, and that's what you do with your song and your dance and your storytelling, and that's what you do. And so I thought, okay, get to work, Pauline, and start writing the poems and start writing the songs. And this CD came out of it, and this is one of the songs. It's called How Shall I Walk? My eyes are red from crying. My heart is sick with grief. They tell me the earth is dying. Tell me there's no relief. Where will I find the courage to wake up and take a stand? How can I be a blessing to the land? How shall I walk? How shall I walk? How shall I walk with this wounded earth? How shall I walk? How shall I walk? How shall I walk with this wounded earth? Ooh, oh, oh, ooh, ooh. I am blessed by the air I breathe. I am blessed by the water I drink. I am blessed by the food I eat. All blessings I receive from the earth. How can I be a blessing? How shall I sing? How shall I sing? How shall I sing with this wounded earth? Sing with joy, sing with sorrow, sing with zest, sing with hope for tomorrow, sing with love for this wounded and still beautiful. I look around me. It's still a beautiful earth.
You sing it for all of us who feel that. And I thank you for, by your passion resonating mine.
Thank you, Janaia. Thank you.
That grief and also that wonder. It is so beautiful. The flicker just sang out here.
I know. It's still beautiful. Yesterday I went into the meadow. There's frogs. The frogs are just singing, and there hasn't been frogs there for years.
Really?
And it was
wonderful.
so great. So yeah, it's this. So the way of emptiness, you know, it's a hard place to be, to contain, but it leads to more joy. It leads to the way of imagining is the next way of intimacy, because, okay, we've seen how things are grim and not good. So the way of imagining is, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. We can imagine another way. And the guide and way of imagining is water, because water is so creative. It can be ice. It can be fluid. It can be steam. It can be a waterfall, it can be a popsicle, it can be a muddy puddle. I mean, water is the most imaginative thing. Then I go into the way of transformation. Way of transformation is when we roll up our sleeves and get to work. And then the way of community. And the way of community is that we're not going to do this on our own. And that's what I appreciate what you and Robin are doing. You're creating another community to be working together.
I want to say a word about that chapter because that really spoke to me personally. Your guide, you have a guide for each of the ways, which is a natural force. And in the guide for community are the trees. Which for me, if I were, that's who I have the most affinity for. And you talk about the science of the trees having the roots.
Oh, this is amazing.
Communications.
They're just starting to figure this out. It amazes me, like we spent all these billions of dollars trying to get to Mars, when right underneath our feet was really the exciting thing that was going on. These are mycelial linkages, okay? This is fungi, mats, huge mats of living beings that are helping the trees to communicate to each other.
The internet of the underground.
This is what Paul Stamets calls it. He calls it the wiring, the Gaia internet. And it looks just like the internet, our computer internet. And I got so excited about that, and I'm very connected to trees as well. I always like to do, part of the workshop is we go outside and we do a meditation with trees, and it's very, very powerful.
One of my favorites, and this is one of your authors, with David Abram, was having us go out and touch a tree limb, right? Make a connection to a branch, and then come back. We did it. So we did this, and then we came back and said, "Now imagine this is another being with intelligence. How would you touch now? And what might happen between you?" It's like it just when we change the world from objects to relationships to other beings,
well,
it's a different world.
Everything is relationship. This is what I learned from being a singer, from studying music. It's not the notes. It's not the notes that are the big deal. It's the silence in between the notes and the rhythm that shape the song. In the same way, and I see that silence like this mycorrhizal fungi, like the dark matter up in the sky. You know, that is what's creating all the galaxies and stars, and everything is alive. You know, and as I say, the reflection is that indigenous people got this a long time ago. Everything is alive and sentient and has its own purpose in life. And so part of what I have been working with is, how do I redefine the purpose of the human on the earth, right? And so I decided this years ago that my function as an artist, as a female artist really, because so much I would look at this culture and it just was so hard for me, you know. And so I thought, okay, Pauline, you're going to reframe, or reclaim, or rename without shame, because that really needs to happen. And especially when it comes to aging, I did a lot of big reframing about that, like with the crone, you know. It's like, yes, take on the crone, the hag, you know. You like that word, hag? It comes from the Greek word hagia. It means holy one. Old women were revered in old cultures and still are in indigenous cultures. And so reclaiming that, you know, and reclaiming everything. I reclaimed my French heritage. That's why I did the Piaf show many years ago.
Edith Piaf,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And I wrote a show about her. I toured it across Canada, and that's where I learned how to feel my grief, because I was just like anybody else, living in a city, and you know, just kind of freezing up everywhere. You know, we kind of freeze right here when you live in a city, and so that's hard for the tears to come. And then to sing her songs, I had to connect with my own grief. And I remember the first show I did was in Vancouver. I'd been doing it for a few months. This woman came backstage, obviously had been crying. And she said, I just want to touch you, she said. My mother died 15 years ago, and this is the first time I've been able to cry. I thought, okay. And I had been all ready to just quit show business altogether, because I was cute and I was young and I was cast in a lot of really dippy kind of roles, right? No, you know, this kind of thing. And so I thought, oh my God, you know, this is the original intent of theater, of storytelling. It is catharsis. It is reconnecting with everything. And so I'm totally grateful to Edith Piaf. I went to Paris. I put a dozen red roses on her grave, and there was like tons of other roses. She meant so much to people because she allowed them to feel. And I see that, you know, I saw that. Okay, Pauline, you have a role. Are you going to help people to feel?
Yes, yes.
And feel their laughter as well as their sorrow. And then I shifted, and now for me it's feeling connected to the earth. That's really what my work is, to feel that connection to the earth and feel the feelings around that.
I am so blessed. We are blessed, aren't we, to have a crone, right? A wise woman in a culture that doesn't value older people. I mean, we're both with our silver hair.
Yeah.
To be that spirited embodiment, not just to be something cast off, you know, as we get older here.
Yeah.
To bring the new story for the young people, for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janaia.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Let's go dancing now.
Well, let's sing a little.
Let's sing a little.
Start me going. Get us singing. You're watching Peak Moment.
쇼마요, 쇼마예, 쇼마요, 쇼.
This is Pauline Le Bel. I'm Janaia Donaldson. You're watching a peak moment like you've never seen before. Join us next time.
Oh, you're great.
Oh, let's do it.
Shine.